Every Friday, just a little after 6, Marcus Ellison parked his aging blue pickup in the same narrow spot outside a roadside grill on the outskirts of Tallahassee. The place wasn't famous, just familiar. His Ford gave a stubborn cough before shutting down, as if resisting rest. He stepped out, wearing jeans pressed that morning and a deep green flannel shirt buttoned to the collar. His Army-issued cap sat slightly forward, the bill-shading eyes that had seen more deserts than rain. This was his ritual. This was peace. He didn't need to read the menu. He'd memorized it years ago. Medium-rare ribeye, fries, collard greens, and a glass of iced tea. Sweet. No lemon. Always no lemon. Inside, the diner smelled of grilled meat and old pine cleaner. The booths creaked under working men and retirees. Contractors, off-duty officers, teachers who hadn't yet let go of their discipline. Marcus wasn't famous in there, but people noticed him the way you notice someone who's been through storms and come back quiet. He always sat by the window. Habit or reflex, it didn't matter. From there, he could see both the door and the parking lot. Some called it paranoia. He called it training. Tonight should have been just like every other Friday. But it wasn't. His usual waitress, a loud, cheerful woman named Patty, wasn't working. Instead, a young woman approached. She looked mid-20s, pale, with a ponytail so tight it looked like it was holding her together. Her name tag read J. Collins. She clutched her notepad like it might leap from her fingers. "Hey there, I'll be taking care of you tonight," she said, her smile thin but real. "You ready to order?" Marcus glanced up slowly. Medium rare ribeye. Fries. Greens. Sweet tea. She blinked, nodded. "No lemon." He tilted his head just a bit. "No lemon." She scribbled fast, then turned toward the kitchen. Marcus let out a breath and settled in. 5 minutes passed. She came back, but not with drinks. She stood by his table, stiff. Her eyes flicked toward the kitchen, then to him. "Sir," she started. "Sorry, what was your name?" He narrowed his eyes. "Marcus." She leaned in slightly. Her voice was barely more than a breath. "Marcus, how long do you plan on staying tonight?" His back stiffened. "Long enough to eat." "Why?" She swallowed. "They don't want you here tonight." The words didn't hit like thunder. They hit like a dropped fork, soft, sharp, and sudden. Marcus didn't move, but something in his posture shifted. A quiet tension rolled in. He looked up slowly. "Come again." "They don't want you here," she said, a little firmer. "I thought you should know." Marcus's hand rested on the table now, fingers slightly curled. "Who's they?" Her eyes flicked to a corner booth. Tucked in the shadows, for men sat close. One bald with tattoos, one with a trimmed beard and smirk that didn't move. The other two looked like catalog hunters, all camo and squint. Their eyes were already on Marcus. He turned back to her. "You sure that warning was for me?" "I don't joke with tables," she replied quietly. Marcus sat back slowly. "You knew." She nodded. "Week and a half. And you're already carrying messages?" She shook her head. "Not messages. I overheard something. Thought you'd want to know." Marcus stared at her, like he was reading lines she hadn't written. Something in her face told him this wasn't gossip. It was personal. She didn't flinch under his gaze. That told him more than words. She returned a minute later with tea. The ice clinked like it was nervous too. "You want to sit?" he asked, eyes still on her. She glanced back at the kitchen, hesitated, then slipped into the seat across from him like a whisper. "I'm not supposed to be off the floor," she murmured. "Then talk fast," Marcus said. "What did you hear?" "They've been coming every week," she said, voice low. "Same booth. Same guys. Last Friday, they left a note. Told management that certain customers make the place feel tense." Marcus raised an eyebrow. "Certain?" She nodded. "That's what it said. No names. Just that word." "And what makes you think they meant me?" "They said the man who always wears a flannel and a veteran cap. The one who sits by the window." That sealed it. Silence spread between them, thick as smoke. Laughter bubbled from another table. A kid dropped a fork. Somewhere, rock music played on low volume. But at their booth, the world stilled. "Management okay with that?" Marcus asked. "I don't know," she replied. "I've only met Gene once. His son, Rick, runs the place now. He doesn't say much, but I know Logan." "Which one is Logan?" "The bald one. We went to high school together. He was trouble even then. Fights, graffiti, all swept away because of his family's money. What's he now? Runs a roofing business. Brings his crew in here. Tips heavy. Thinks that buys him something. Marcus exhaled through his nose. And you're telling me this, why? She looked at him, serious. Because the last time guys like him started whispering about who belonged and who didn't, people ignored it. Then it got louder. I don't want it to get loud again. He respected that answer. But he wasn't a rookie. You afraid of him? I'm afraid of where this goes. And I'm afraid no one else will say anything. He looked at her hands. They were shaking. You say Logan knew you in high school? She nodded. Locked me in a closet once. Started rumors. He left town for a bit. Now he's back. Thinks he owns the place. Marcus leaned forward. What do you want me to do? She blinked. I don't know. Because telling me this, either you want me to leave, or you want me to stay. She exhaled. I wanted you to be ready. Marcus took a slow sip of his tea. Well, he said calmly, I'm ready now. He didn't move, but something in the room had changed. He could feel it. He'd felt it before, overseas, late nights, just before something cracked wide open. It wasn't paranoia. It was instinct. Even the bartender had stopped polishing glasses. Then, her name rang out from the kitchen. Not a request, a command. She stood, gave Marcus a last tight look, then walked fast toward the kitchen. He stayed put, back straight, eyes steady. He didn't flinch when the chair across from him scraped again. And a voice said low, smug, still like that corner seat. Huh? Marcus lifted his gaze slowly, already knowing who it was before he saw the face. The voice had that southern smugness, relaxed but wrapped in something sharper. Sitting across from him now was a man in a gray shirt, sleeves rolled up like he wanted to show off the forearms he didn't earn. His buzz cut was too tight for a man his age, and his smile, if you could call it that, didn't come close to touching his eyes. Logan, Marcus said, voice flat. Logan leaned back like they were two old friends catching up. Heard you come in here every Friday. Figured it was time we got properly introduced, you and me. Loyal customers, right? Marcus didn't smile. Can't say I was holding my breath for the pleasure. Logan let out a short laugh, the kind people do when they want you to think they're in on some joke only they understand. You know how it is. Some folks just don't fit. You start noticing patterns. It's polite to speak up. Marcus tilted his head. His voice was steady, quiet. Speak up to who? Logan shrugged, gestured vaguely toward the bar. To the folks that matter. The ones that keep this place running. People who care about the kind of atmosphere we keep around here. You change the ingredients too much, and the whole dish starts tasting off. You get what I mean? Marcus's stare didn't break. I know exactly what you mean. The air at the table changed. Not louder, not colder, just sharper. Logan's fingers tapped the table slowly, like he was waiting for a beat that wasn't coming. You don't strike me as dumb, he said, keeping his smile in place. Military man, right? You know how things work. Order. Chain of command. Marcus didn't blink. I also know what to do when the orders are garbage. That made Logan pause for a heartbeat. Look, this ain't personal, he said, tone softening just enough to sound fake. But some places work better when people understand where they fit. And to be real blunt, this ain't your lane. Marcus sat up straighter, leaning forward just enough to make his point land. I've eaten here every week for 6 years, he said. Paid my tab, tipped my servers, caused no trouble. I've earned the right to sit wherever the hell I want. And I don't need your permission to exist. Logan's eyes narrowed, but he forced a smirk. See, that's where you're wrong. You think this is about rights? It's about comfort. Mine. Theirs. He nodded toward the back. Even hers. Marcus's jaw tightened. Emily. Logan leaned back like he had the upper hand. You think she warned you out of kindness? She's scared. And when people like you make noise, folks like her get burned. Marcus didn't respond right away. He studied Logan, the way a man looks at a wall he's had to break through before. Not because he wanted to, but because leaving it standing meant letting something worse happen later. What happened to you? Marcus asked, not mocking, just honest. Logan squinted. What? You were a punk in school. Everybody knows that. Then life handed you every break a man could ask for. And now you're sitting across from me like I stole your dinner. Logan's smile finally cracked, but he didn't answer. Marcus stood, slow, not dramatic, just enough to let the old booth creak under his weight. "You picked the wrong old man," he said simply. Logan didn't move, but his eyes followed Marcus as he walked away from the table. Not toward the door, not toward the bar, just toward the restroom. Quietly, steady, like someone who wasn't done yet. 5 minutes later, Marcus returned. The corner booth was empty. Logan and his crew were gone. Not a goodbye, not a glance. Just 4 used napkins, a half-finished plate of ribs, and a crumpled receipt left on the edge of the table. He scanned the room. Nothing looked out of place. A toddler laughed near the back. A fork scraped against the plate. The world spun on like it hadn't just been tilted. But Emily was gone too. Marcus sat back down at his booth. His tea was still sweating in its glass. Still sweet. Still untouched. No food had arrived. Maybe the kitchen never fired the order. Maybe someone hoped he'd get tired and leave. He waved over the nearest busboy, a young kid with curly hair and an apron that looked too big for him. "You see my server?" Marcus asked calmly. The kid looked confused. "Emily? She went out back, I think. Couple minutes ago." Marcus nodded. "Tell the kitchen to make that ribeye. Medium rare. Fries. Greens. I'm still here." The kid looked like he wanted to say something, then thought better of it and shuffled off. Marcus leaned back in his seat. His eyes shifted to the window, the one that faced the alley. He could just barely see the red brick wall and the edge of the dumpster. Out back. Alone. Didn't like the sound of that. Still, he waited. 5 minutes. 10. No food. No Emily. And still, no manager. Finally, Marcus slid out of the booth, dropped the tin for the tea, and made his way toward the side door. The heat hit him like breath. Georgia didn't care what time it was. The alley smelled of fried oil and wet cardboard. He listened. There. Voices. Low and tense. He followed the sound, one step at a time. He found them near the back exit. Emily standing near the dumpster, arms tight across her chest. Logan stood in front of her, talking low, but the tone was enough to slice through air. "You said you were done," she hissed. Logan's voice was cool. "I said I was looking out for people." Emily stepped forward. "That man served. He's been coming here longer than I've worked here. And you know what? He tips better than any of your boys." Logan didn't flinch. He doesn't belong. Because of what? A steak? A window seat? Or because he makes you uncomfortable? Logan stepped closer. "I could get you fired with one call." "Try me," she said. Marcus stepped into view. His voice calm but firm. "She won't be losing her job tonight. Not if I've got anything to say about it." Logan turned fast like a dog caught chewing what it shouldn't. "This ain't your business," he snapped. Marcus didn't raise his voice. "It became my business the moment you sat at my table. You think you can scare me?" Marcus stepped forward, putting himself between Logan and Emily. "I don't need to scare you. I just need to remind you, I've seen what men like you try to do when they think no one's watching. But you picked the wrong pair tonight." Logan stared him down for half a second, then scoffed, muttered something under his breath, and walked off, boots heavy on the pavement. The truck roared to life seconds later. Emily let out a breath she'd been holding since her shift started. "You didn't have to do that," she said. Marcus kept his eyes on the parking lot. "Yeah," he replied. "I did." But deep down, he knew this wasn't over. Not yet. Emily and Marcus stood in the alley longer than they meant to. The buzz of the AC unit above them filled the silence like static. She rubbed her arms slowly, trying to calm the tremble still working its way through her. He didn't say anything at first, just stood near her, one eye still on the edge of the parking lot, like he half expected Logan to circle back. Finally, Marcus spoke, low and even. "You said Logan used to mess with you. That wasn't just schoolyard stuff, was it?" She shook her head. "No, he was cruel, but in a way that made people think you were imagining it. Small things. Whispering lies. Locking doors behind me. Always just enough to avoid trouble. He had friends who covered for him. Coaches, teachers, people who owed his family something." Marcus's jaw tightened. "And now, he runs a small crew. Roofing, remodeling. A dozen guys maybe. They do decent work. Gene's son gave them a discount on food for a couple jobs last year. After that, Logan started coming every Friday. With his boys. They tip big, drink cheap, act like they own the place." Marcus folded his arms, thinking, And every time someone walks in who doesn't look like them, she nodded. It shifts. I saw a few weeks ago. A black couple sat at the bar. 15 minutes later, Logan and his crew stood up and left. Didn't order. Just walked out. Marcus let that sit. Anybody else say anything? The kitchen staff notice, but they don't want trouble. Most of them just want to finish their shift and get home. That silence, Marcus muttered, costs more than paychecks. Emily looked toward the back door. Do you think I was stupid for saying something? He turned to her, steady and honest. No, I think you were the only one with enough backbone to still know right from wrong. She gave a soft smile, more sad than grateful. Yeah, but decency doesn't pay rent. I've got a 4-year-old. His dad left before he turned 2. I need this job. I need these tips. But I also can't look him in the face knowing I let this place become something worse, just because it was easier. Marcus reached into his wallet, pulled out 2 crisp 20s, and offered them to her. This isn't charity. It's thanks for saying something when others wouldn't. She tried to hand them back, but he gently pushed her hand away. You're not invisible, Emily. And if he ever makes you feel like you are, you tell me. She nodded slowly, folding the bills into her apron. He's not done, she said, quieter now. He'll come back. He doesn't take nights like this lightly. And when he does, he'll either try to make me the problem or you the example. Marcus looked toward the shadows, past the dumpster. His voice was calm, but there was iron in it. Let him come back. I've faced worse than a man who hides behind steak knives and business cards. Emily gave a short laugh. When you first walked in, I didn't think much. Just another regular with a pattern. Quiet. Predictable. He raised a brow. And now I think this place would be better if it had more people like you sitting by the window. He allowed himself the smallest smile. Then maybe this town's not too far gone. Before either could say more, the side door creaked open. The busboy stepped out, hair damp with sweat and nervous energy. The manager's looking for you, he told Emily. Said if you're not back in 2 minutes, you can clock out. She sighed. That's my cue. Marcus nodded. Go ahead. I'll be back inside. Still haven't had that steak. She gave him one last glance, then disappeared through the door. Marcus stood there for a moment longer, watching the dark, listening to the hum of streetlights and back alley fans. The threat hadn't gone away. It had just stepped out of sight for now. When he walked back in, the restaurant had returned to its usual rhythm. But something was off. The conversations were still happening, but quieter. Eyes darted toward him, then away. The energy in the room felt thinner, like everyone was trying too hard to pretend nothing had happened. At his table, the tea glass was half melted, but beside it sat a fresh one, cold, sweet, perfectly poured. In the seat across from his, a tall man waited. Slim build, tucked shirt, name tag, Rick Landry. Jean's son. Marcus walked up slowly, not in a rush. Rick stood to greet him with a forced smile. Mr. Ellison, he began, I just wanted to check in personally. Apologize for the delay. There's been some confusion in the kitchen tonight. Marcus didn't return the smile. Confusion? Rick nodded too quickly. Yeah, a mix-up. Emily didn't enter your order until just a few minutes ago. But don't worry, the meal's on the house. Marcus didn't sit right away. That the only thing going on back there? Rick hesitated, smile twitching. Of course. What else would there be? Marcus let the question hang for a few long seconds, then slid into his booth again. Then I'll wait. That steak better be worth it. Rick sat back down, trying to steady himself. I hear you're a veteran, he said, like he was tossing out a friendly card. You hear that from Logan? Marcus asked without blinking. Rick fumbled. No, I mean it's just known. The hat and all. Marcus nodded once. I earned this cap. Didn't wear it to start conversations. Rick gave a nervous chuckle. Right. Well, thank you for your service. Marcus laced his fingers on the table. Rick, you got a problem. And it's not just Logan. Rick blinked. I'm not sure I follow. Your staff have seen things, heard things, watched certain people get treated one way while others walk in and get ignored. You know what's happening. You're just hoping it'll pass without getting loud. Rick glanced around. This is a family restaurant, Mr. Ellison. We don't want drama. Marcus's voice was steady. This isn't drama. This is decency. If that's too much for you to manage, maybe you've got no business running your daddy's restaurant. Rick's face went pale, but he didn't push back. Emily's been through a lot, he muttered. I gave her a shot when no one else would. But if she keeps stirring the pot, I can't keep defending her. She doesn't need defending, Marcus said, voice sharp now. She needs backup. There's a difference. Rick looked down, then stood up. Your steak will be out soon. I'll make sure it's done right. Marcus watched him go, then looked toward the kitchen. No sign of Emily. He picked up his tea, took a sip. Still sweet, still cold. But his stomach wasn't focused on food anymore. 5 more minutes passed before the food arrived. A busser brought it out, not Emily. He placed the plate down quietly, like he was setting a glass ornament in front of someone who'd seen too much. Marcus stared at the steak. Hot, seared perfectly. Fries golden, greens still steaming. But the bite he took didn't taste like much. He wasn't chewing steak. He was chewing over words. Then, just as he reached for the salt, Emily appeared beside the table again. She looked calmer on the surface, but her eyes didn't lie. They were sharp and guarded, like she hadn't stopped bracing for impact since that back alley moment. She leaned in a little, voice quiet. Sorry about the delay. No need to apologize, Marcus said without looking up. You all right? She gave a tiny nod. Rick pulled me aside. Told me I need to be careful about what I say to customers. Said I might have misunderstood some things. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Did you? She looked him straight in the eye. Not even a little. He cut another piece of steak. Slowly. Cleanly. Then let him be nervous, Marcus said. That's how things change. Emily didn't smile. Not this time. She just stood there, hands clasped tight, like she was holding on to something heavier than a tray. Then she spoke again, softer now. Can I tell you something? He nodded once. I moved back here last year. Things weren't working out where I was. My aunt had a room. I needed a break. A job. Stability. Marcus didn't interrupt. I hadn't seen Logan in years. First time I walked in here to apply, he saw me, and it was like nothing had changed. Like he just picked up where he left off back in high school. Watching. Waiting. She looked over her shoulder briefly, making sure no one was too close. I tried to stay out of his way. Kept my head down. But it wasn't just me. I started noticing the pattern. Who he looked at. Who he didn't. Which tables he'd whisper about. Which ones made him leave. Marcus nodded quietly. That's not ignorance. That's learned. Someone taught him that. And nobody ever told him it was wrong. Emily blinked, surprised by the calm certainty in his voice. Like she expected someone older to shrug it off. But Marcus didn't look away. He meant every word. You saw it. You named it. And you warned me. That means you broke the cycle. She stood a little straighter, just a fraction. But it was there, like a breath finally filling a tight chest. Neither of them said anything for a while. Marcus chewed, still not really tasting the food. Emily checked on a nearby table, then returned briefly to refill his tea. Before walking away, she whispered again. He'll be back. Logan. He doesn't lose easy. And Rick, her voice trailed off. Marcus looked up at her. Rick's waiting for it all to blow over. Like most men who inherit something they didn't build. She nodded, slowly. Yeah. He finished his plate in silence. Not the awkward kind. The heavy kind. Where each bite landed like a decision. Where every sound around him, a dropped spoon, a conversation in the corner, reminded him how many people were choosing silence because it was easier. Emily stayed on the floor, doing her job, moving from table to table like nothing had happened. But Marcus could tell. Her shoulders were tighter. Her smile was forced. She looked like someone standing on a rug that kept shifting under her feet. And he hated that. A few minutes later, Marcus pushed back from the booth, wiped his mouth with a napkin, and stood. He didn't head for the exit. Instead, he walked toward the front counter. Rick was there again, talking to the hostess, pretending to be busy. Marcus stopped in front of him. Rick. Rick turned, startled. Everything okay, Mr. Ellison? I hope the steak was. I paid for it, Marcus said, cutting him off. And I'm not leaving without saying what I came to say. Rick's smile vanished. He glanced around, nervous. Maybe we could talk in the back. No, Marcus said firmly. We'll talk right here, in front of whoever's listening. The conversations in the dining room started softening. Heads turned. Forks paused midair. I've been eating here for 6 years. Never caused trouble. Never asked for a thing. But tonight, Marcus looked around, slow and steady. Tonight, I watched a young woman show more backbone than you've shown all year. Rick stepped forward, whispering fast. "You're making this worse." "No, you are," Marcus said, voice still calm but louder now. "You're worried about the wrong kind of worse." People were listening now, really listening. "You got men in here every week treating this restaurant like their own private club, staring people down, leaving messages. And you pretend not to see it because it's easier than standing up." Rick shifted on his feet. "This isn't the place for speeches." "Then stop running it like a stage," Marcus shot back. Silence fell again. Heavy. Charged. And then Emily stepped forward from the other side of the floor. She wasn't shaking now. Her voice was clear. "I'd like to say something." Rick turned toward her, face pale. "Emily, this isn't." She didn't wait. She walked beside Marcus, planted herself next to him like she'd been doing it all her life. "I've worked here long enough to know what's been going on," she said. "I'm not the only one who's seen it. There's been favoritism, harassment, pressure to look away, pressure to stay quiet." She glanced at Marcus. "He's not the problem. And if standing next to him cost me my job, maybe I shouldn't have fought so hard to keep it." The silence that followed was thick enough to bite into. A fork clattered 3 tables back. Marcus gave her a small nod, then turned back to Rick. "You can run your daddy's steakhouse however you want," he said. "But don't pretend you don't know what's going on. You're either part of the solution or just another man keeping quiet and waiting for the storm to pass." He walked back to his booth without another word. Emily stayed. Rick didn't say a thing. Marcus picked up his receipt, slid his cap on, and made for the door. Some people looked away. A few stared, and one older man by the bar raised his glass slightly. Marcus stepped outside. The heat hadn't changed. The parking lot looked the same, but the town had shifted, even if just a little. Marcus didn't climb into his truck right away. He stood beside it, hand resting on the door handle, looking back through the large diner windows. Emily was still near the counter, standing alone now. No Rick beside her. No manager trying to smooth things over. Just her, eyes scanning the room like she was finally seeing it for what it really was. He got in the truck, but didn't start the engine. Just sat there, arms on the wheel, windows down. The warm night air drifted in, thick with fryer grease, cut grass, and something else, something that felt unfinished. He didn't turn the radio on, didn't check his phone. Then, headlights swept into the lot behind him. Too fast, too confident. Marcus didn't even have to look. He already knew. Dusty white Dodge pickup. Lifted. Loud. Logan's. 3 of them jumped out before the truck even fully stopped. Logan climbed out last, pulling down his shirt and adjusting his belt like he was arriving to fix something no one asked him to fix. He didn't see Marcus at first. His eyes were locked on the restaurant doors. Marcus stepped out of the truck just as Logan reached for the handle. "You forget your leftovers?" he asked, voice even. Logan froze. His posture shifted like a man caught sneaking back into a room he said he'd already left. "Didn't expect you to still be here," he muttered. Marcus walked toward him, slowly, calmly. "Funny," he said. "I figured you'd be long gone. Pride usually makes people leave quicker." Logan's friends hung back, arms crossed, not saying anything yet, just watching, waiting. "You picked the wrong man, Logan," Marcus said. Logan rolled his eyes. "You made your little scene. Had your speech. Think that changes anything?" Marcus pointed back toward the diner window. "That girl in there? She stood up tonight. Spoke the truth while everyone else played dumb. She made a choice." Logan sneered. "And what do you think happens when people do that?" Marcus didn't blink. "They lose sometimes, but not always." Logan gave a dry chuckle, the kind that comes from someone trying not to show their teeth. "You think standing out here in the dark makes you strong?" he asked. "You think speeches scare me?" Marcus took a step closer. "I don't care what scares you. I care what you do next." He glanced at the 2 behind Logan. One of them, younger, built like a linebacker, shifted slightly. Nervous. Uncertain. Marcus saw it right away. The edge was there, but so was doubt. "You really want to try something here?" Marcus asked him. "Outside a family restaurant? Lights on? Cameras running." The young man didn't answer, but he didn't move forward either. Marcus turned back to Logan. "You've had this town in your back pocket for so long. You forgot what it means to earn respect. All you've got left now is fear. But fear doesn't last. It fades fast when people stop running." Logan's jaw clenched. For the first time, his swagger cracked. If you ever make that girl feel unsafe again, Marcus continued, I'll make sure this whole town sees you for exactly what you are. Not a boss, not a man, just a bully who got too comfortable. No one spoke for a long beat. Then Logan looked at his boys, jaw twitching. Let's go, he said low. They turned. Doors slammed. Tires squealed a little too fast. Marcus didn't move until the taillights disappeared. Then he turned and walked slowly back toward the restaurant. Inside, Emily was wiping down a table near the window. She looked up when he entered. They came back, she asked. Yeah, he said. But they're gone now. She didn't ask how. She didn't need to. You all right? She asked quietly. I'm good, he replied. You? She paused. I think I will be. They stood near the entrance again. The night felt thick, but the fear wasn't the same. Peace doesn't come from one night, Marcus said. It's what happens after, when the noise dies down, and people choose whether to stay silent or keep speaking. The restaurant was winding down. A few late diners still lingered. The cook's voice echoed faintly from the kitchen, calling out one of the last orders of the night. Marcus didn't sit this time, just stood near the front, scanning the room. Some people glanced at him. Some looked away. Others just went back to their meals. But the room felt different now. Travis finally emerged from the back, clipboard in hand. He spotted Marcus immediately. No fake smile this time. No attempt to make small talk. He walked over slowly. You didn't have to do all that, Travis muttered. Marcus raised an eyebrow. You think that was for drama? Travis didn't answer. You've been running this place like nothing's wrong, Marcus said. But you know better. You knew what Logan was. You just didn't want to deal with it. Travis shifted uncomfortably. He's brought in a lot of business. He's connected. You think I could just ban him and not feel it? Marcus stepped closer, voice low. What you tolerate defines you. That man came into your restaurant making threats, pushing your staff around, trying to decide who gets to feel welcome. And you still see dollar signs when you look at him? Travis swallowed. It's complicated. No, Marcus said firmly. It's not. You either stand for something, or you let men like him keep carving up this place into what they want. Emily walked out from the back, carrying a tray of silverware. She overheard the last part, but didn't interrupt. Travis looked at her, then at Marcus. I didn't ask for this, he muttered. Marcus stared hard at him. Nobody asked you to inherit this place either. But your name's on the door now. That means something. Or it should. Travis didn't speak. Finally, Emily stepped in. You don't have to fix everything tonight, she said gently. But you do need to start. Fire me if you want, but I'm not lying. And I'm not covering for anybody. Travis rubbed the bridge of his nose, shoulders tense. No one's getting fired, he said. I need time. Marcus shook his head. You don't have time. That clock's been ticking. All you've got left now is a choice. Travis looked at both of them, at Marcus's steady presence, at Emily's quiet courage. Then, finally, he nodded. I'll handle it. Marcus didn't smile, just said, we'll see. He turned and walked toward the door. Emily followed. They stood outside for a few moments, the parking lot quiet again. I don't think he knows what to do, she said. He'll either learn, Marcus replied, or lose everything trying not to choose. She gave a tired laugh. I'm used to people walking away when things get hard. You didn't. He looked at her and added, I've walked away from enough things in my life. Some I regret. This wasn't going to be one of them. She stepped off the curb, looking up at the dark sky. You think tonight changes anything? Marcus paused. Maybe not right away. But one night like this, it can shake something loose. A car pulled into the lot. A black man and a Latino woman stepped out. Early 30s, dressed casual, probably a date night. They hesitated just slightly near the entrance. Then they walked in. No fear, no hesitation. Marcus didn't say anything. He didn't need to. That moment said it all. Marcus didn't go home and fall asleep like most nights. He sat in his recliner, lights off, ceiling fan barely turning above him. The house was quiet, too quiet for his thoughts. They moved around his head like traffic without signals. Sharp, fast, restless. He wasn't angry. He was tired. Tired of explaining things that should have been understood years ago. Tired of pretending moments like tonight were rare. Tired of watching people like Emily carry the weight of something they didn't create, just because they had the courage to speak up. He leaned back and closed his eyes, but sleep didn't come. Instead, images did. Emily's face in the alley. Logan's smirk. The silence of the dining room when the truth finally broke through. The way Rick had nothing to say, not because he didn't care, but because he'd never had to care until now. Then, 2 days later, the phone rang. He answered without checking the caller ID. "Hey, it's Emily." Her voice was different now. Steadier, brighter, still cautious, but there was something else behind it. Something like relief. "I just thought you should know. Logan's crew didn't show up this Friday." Marcus sat up a little straighter. "Rick posted a sign on the door," she continued. "Said, 'This place serves everyone. If that's a problem, you're welcome to eat somewhere else.'" Marcus smiled, quietly, not the kind that stretches your face, the kind that settles in your chest. "That's a start," he said. Emily paused. "You coming in this week?" "Wouldn't miss it." He heard the breath she didn't realize she was holding. "Well," she said, trying not to sound excited, "your tea's waiting." "No lemon." They hung up. That Friday, Marcus pulled into the same narrow parking spot just after 6. Right on time. The lot wasn't packed, but it wasn't empty either. Inside, the lights cast that same warm glow over the booths and counters. But something was different. Life was happening again. Families with kids. Couples on casual dates. 2 teenage boys sharing fries and elbowing each other over ketchup. And no one was watching the door like it didn't belong to certain people. Emily greeted him with a smile. Not a nervous one. Not a forced one. A real one. "Your table's open," she said. He nodded, removed his cap, and slid into the booth by the window. There was a new sign on the glass near the entrance. Simple black lettering on white cardstock. "Respect is served here." 15 minutes later, the steak arrived. Medium rare. Fries crisp. Greens just the way he liked them. And for the first time in a long while, he actually tasted every bite. He ate slowly, letting the food settle, letting the quiet feel earned. Across the room, he spotted Rick standing near the bar. He wasn't smiling, but he was watching, not like someone trying to control things, but like someone learning how to see again. Their eyes met. No nod, no exchange, just a small look that passed between them, like a truce not spoken out loud. Emily came by near the end of the meal. She placed the check on the table, and he reached into his wallet without a word. He didn't leave a note, didn't say anything dramatic, just slid a crisp $50 bill into the check folder. Quiet thanks, quiet encouragement, quiet backup. As he stood, she touched his arm lightly. Not to stop him, just to say something without saying too much. "Thank you," she said, voice steady. Marcus looked at her, then said the thing no one had said to him when he was her age. The thing he wished someone had. "Don't let them teach you to stay quiet just to stay safe." She nodded, but her eyes were full. Not with tears, with understanding. He walked out slowly. The sky outside had just started that soft orange dip before dusk, when the day looks half real and half like a memory. The kind of light that makes everything feel like a page turning. He opened the truck door, but didn't start the engine right away. Just sat there, let the air move around him. He thought about the night in the alley, the whisper in the booth, the anger that never turned to shouting, only truth. He thought about Logan, and how men like him don't vanish. They just move to other rooms, wait for new shadows. But more than that, he thought about Emily, a young woman with rent due, a kid at home, and nothing but her voice standing between her and the easy choice. And she still chose to speak. He didn't know what would happen next. If Logan would try again. If Rick would actually change. But he knew this much. Sometimes the biggest fight isn't loud. It doesn't come with fists or fire. Sometimes it walks in quietly, sits down at a booth, orders a steak, and refuses to leave. The next morning, Marcus did something he hadn't planned. He drove a few blocks past the usual hardware store he liked, then pulled into a quiet little coffee shop near the town center. He didn't go in, just sat in his truck with a cup in hand, thinking about whether he should bring one to Emily. Say something kind, something normal. But he didn't. He knew enough to understand that sometimes letting a moment settle was better than trying to explain it. Words didn't always fix things. Actions did. And for now, she didn't need him to remind her of anything. She just needed space to stand strong. Later that weekend, Marcus visited the local park. sat on a bench near the basketball courts where kids played without thinking about anything bigger than the next shot. A few parents watched from the sidelines, laughing, sharing snacks, talking about school supplies and weekend plans. That's what it was all supposed to be about. Just people living, sharing space without fear or tension. He thought about how something so basic, eating dinner in peace, could become a line people still tried to draw with whispers and smirks. He remembered being that age, young, tired, still in uniform, still being told by waitresses which sections were full when they clearly weren't. He never made a scene. He just left, told himself it wasn't worth it. But now, sitting there, he realized something had changed in him. He was done leaving. That night, he wrote something down. Not to post, not to send, just for himself. It wasn't a speech, just a few sentences. When people say nothing's wrong, it usually means they haven't had to look. When someone does speak, you can't just stand behind them. You have to stand beside them. Because silence isn't peace. It's permission. He folded the paper and tucked it into a book on his nightstand. No need to share it. Not yet. By the next Friday, the air around Gene's Roadhouse Grill had shifted again. Word had spread. Logan's crew hadn't returned. And Rick, for the first time in weeks, stood outside the restaurant before opening, personally checking deliveries, talking to staff without rushing off. Inside, a few new faces showed up. A couple of regulars who had stopped coming quietly came back. People noticed the sign on the door. Some nodded, some shrugged, some still pretended not to see it. But the energy felt lighter. At 6:07 p.m., Marcus walked through the door. Emily greeted him at the front. Her hair was down this time. No apron yet. Just her, standing by the host stand, sipping water like any other young woman working through the evening rush. "You're early," she said with a half-smile. 6:07, Marcus replied. "Every Friday." She led him to his usual booth by the window. He sat, took off his cap, leaned back the way he always did, like someone who knew the routine but never stopped paying attention. His tea came out before he asked. She placed it in front of him and said, "Already told the kitchen. They're getting started on your steak." "No lemon?" he asked. "No lemon," she smiled. They didn't talk much that night. No need. She moved between tables, taking orders, laughing with a couple of kids near the back, helping an older man adjust his walker without making him feel awkward. Marcus just watched, not in a creepy way, in a way that said, "I see you. You're still here. That matters." By the end of the meal, he left another tip. Not big, just respectful. As he stood to leave, Emily caught up with him at the door. "Hey," she said. He turned. "Something happened earlier," she said quietly. This family came in. Black mom, white dad, 2 little kids. Sat near the middle. For a second, I felt my heart jump. Like maybe something would happen. But no one said a word. They just ate. Marcus nodded slowly. "That's how it's supposed to be." "Yeah," she said. "I know. I just forgot what normal felt like." He reached for the door, paused, then looked back. "You didn't do anything special that night," he said. She looked confused for a second. "You did something decent," he explained. "But in a world where most people look away, that makes it special." She didn't answer at first. Just let the words settle. "See you next Friday?" she asked. He gave a slight nod. "Every time." And then he left. Quietly. No need for big gestures. Just a man walking into the night, leaving a small crack of light behind him. Just enough for someone else to follow. The following Friday came with the kind of still air that usually meant rain later. Soft, warm, almost heavy. Marcus parked in his usual spot. Same time, same rhythm. But something in his chest felt lighter. Not because the world had changed overnight, but because he'd seen what even one honest moment could do when it landed in the right hands. Inside the diner, the mood had settled into something that felt, for the first time in weeks, calm. Not pretend calm. Real. People talked, laughed, shared fries across booths. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was peaceful. Emily met him at the door. No awkwardness. No tension. "Your seat's waiting," she said with a smile. As he walked past the window, he caught a glimpse of the sign again. "Respect is served here." Still there. Still firm. He sat, tea already on the table. "No lemon." "You're early," she said again. 6:07, he replied like clockwork. She walked off, and he leaned back into the booth. looked out the window, watched the cars pass. No scanning, no reflex, just looking. By the time his food arrived, Marcus wasn't thinking about Logan anymore, or Rick, or the booth in the corner that used to hold tension instead of customers. He was thinking about how quiet courage can build things louder than shouting ever could. Emily stopped by near the end of his meal. "That couple came back," she said. He raised his eyebrows slightly. "From last week, with the 2 kids. They came back, sat in the same spot, ordered dessert this time." Marcus smiled. "Good. They look happy," she added. "Comfortable, not like they were testing the room." Marcus nodded, pushing his plate slightly forward. "That's what winning looks like. Not big moments, just people breathing easy." She looked at him for a second, as if committing the line to memory. "You ever think it'll all stop?" she asked. "What?" "The whispering, the looks, the games people play with who belongs and who doesn't." Marcus took a breath before answering. "No, I don't think it stops. Not completely, but I think it gets quieter. I think people like you, who speak up early, before it grows, they stop it from spreading." She nodded. "Feels small, though." "It's not," he said. "Most of the damage in the world isn't done with fire. It's done with silence. You chose noise. That matters." She took the check and walked off. No more thank yous. No more drama. Just a quiet agreement between 2 people who understood something most others didn't. Marcus sat for a few minutes more, then stood slowly, adjusted his cap, and headed for the door. At the exit, he paused again. The world hadn't shifted under his feet. The town wasn't suddenly pure, but inside, something had settled, a reminder that every small stand adds up. As he stepped into the warm air, he thought about the past few weeks, about the moment Emily leaned in and whispered those 7 words, about what it had set in motion. Not a fight, not a protest, just a refusal, a quiet refusal to look the other way. Sometimes Marcus thought that's how change begins, not with noise, not with anger, but with someone deciding, "This time I won't pretend it's not happening." Because at the end of the day, peace doesn't come from silence. It comes from people who are brave enough to speak while others stay seated. Moral of the story: silence may keep things calm, but it doesn't keep things right. Real peace begins when ordinary people choose to speak, even when their voice shakes.